Well, guys, it's that time again. It's Monday night. It's kind of getting late over here, so episode 5 of day 7 of 24 just concluded, and I'm gonna put some quick thoughts about it up. So again, if you have not seen it yet, episode 5 of season 7 of 24, turn this video off right now because I will be spoiling it. And if you are only on this channel for football stuff, get out of here because this has nothing to do with football. Alright, episode 5 picks up, of course, where we left off. It starts at 12 p.m. and goes through 1 p.m. And as we know, 1 p.m. was the cutoff time for the decision by the president of whether or not to continue with the invasion or pull back her troops. 1 o'clock was the cutoff, so we already know that the end of this episode will prove to be very interesting. Now, initially, when we come into the episode, we see Jack Bauer, Tony Almeida, and the group of terrorists attempting to break into the safe room that holds the Prime Minister Metabo, I believe, former Prime Minister, and they find they cannot get in. It's a safe room, and it wouldn't be much of a safe room if it wasn't easy to get into. So, they interrogate the guard, they threaten to kill him and everything else, but you can't open the door from inside, so they managed to hook up a comm link with him and try and talk him out of there, try and convince him, coerce him, but they hold steady, and the FBI is coming because the FBI knows what's going on, and eventually Jack Bauer smokes them out of the room using a gas substance he created using household chemicals, blowing it through the ventilation system and getting them to open the door when the alternative would be to die. Now, this part, I don't know if I liked it because we see the ex-Prime Minister Metabo refusing to open the door even as he's on the ground dying from the gas through the ventilation system. And, he's already pretty much made up his mind that he's just gonna let it be and not open the door. And it ends up being the wife who, against the wishes of her husband, opening the door. Now, if the husband, the Prime Minister, the ex-Prime Minister, whatever, had been the one to open the door, I could have seen that because he knows. I could see him thinking, well, if this invasion by the U.S. into Sangala works, I have to be alive. I have to be there to lead the people. If I'm dead, this is all for nothing. So if he chose to open the door, which he didn't, but had it been him, I could see that. But coming from her, I didn't really like that. It was selfish of her. She was deciding to put her life, and well, I guess the life of her husband, above everything else. It was like she was just trying to save her own skin, and to some degree the skin of her husband, but I really didn't like having her be the one to do it. It was a twist, it was unexpected. I don't know if I really liked it. So they get what they needed and quickly get out of there before the FBI can arrive. Meanwhile, at the FBI headquarters, the Attorney General's grilling people about Renee Walker's supposed interrogation and torture of the sniper Tanner when he was laying in his hospital room. And they're poking around and becoming a real nuisance and generally making themselves out to be some pretty unlikable characters, almost too stereotypically, in my opinion. They're like, well, I don't care that there's a international incident going on. We gotta handle this thing even though we can handle it tomorrow and nothing will change. And, yeah. I guess there are really people like that in real life who just like to enforce their power and stuff, so I guess I can kind of see that. But, anyway, they're getting in the way and into the FBI. They're trying to bring Renee in because, Renee has pretty much admitted, yeah, I did what I needed to do, but she also says, I have to make this right. I have to get Tony and Jack back because she blames herself for trusting Jack in the first place, of course, so she's disobeying orders now, and, I can only imagine what's going to happen to her when all this is over, but we see officially the first signs of Larry Moss, the FBI head or whatever, having personal feelings for Renee Walker, which is going to be an interesting twist because I can sense some sexual tensions or feelings developing between Renee and Jack. So when this is all over, that could be an interesting development. Meanwhile, we go back to Henry Taylor, who just discovered that his suspicions were correct and his son had been murdered, had just been handed sufficient evidence, and is being assisted by his bodyguard, I can't remember the guy's name, in uncovering the exact details, uncovering the exact proof, so they can come forth with indisputable evidence of such. So, I guess they don't want to do anything officially yet because he doesn't know how deep the conspiracy runs, so he takes, he uses his bodyguard to contact one of his friends who knows computers apparently, and they go to see him, and then we get hit with the big twist of the bodyguard, the innocuous, young, completely unsuspectable bodyguard ending up being a part of the terrorist, a part of the plot, basically. They arrive at the apartment, there's nobody there. It actually ends up being the apartment of Samantha Roth, the ex-girlfriend of the president's son, and he tricks him into drinking some sort of paralysis agent. So, this is a good twist. I like this because I didn't suspect this guy for a second. I've suspected, what's his name? The dude who played the warden in Shawshank. I suspected that dude. I suspected just about everyone in the FBI of being, corrupt, but I did not suspect this bodyguard kid. I did not see this coming, but he ends up paralyzing him, the first gentleman, and plans to kill him, and then intends to bring Samantha there, kill her, make it look like a homicide-suicide deal. So this is a nice twist. Again, I just did not see this coming. And let's see, what else do we got here? Anyway, the president has already decided she's going to push ahead with the attack and hope that the Prime Minister and the CIP device can be recovered. She's, being very adamant about all this, even though everyone around her is saying, we gotta pull back, we gotta submit to the demands, we got like 10 minutes before this thing happens, and she's very adamant about it. And then we see Renee on the approach, right next to the truck that the Prime Minister is being loaded into, and she ends up getting captured by the terrorists. And one thing I didn't like about this scene was how personal Renee seemed to take Jack's betrayal. She was being very mean-spirited about it. She was being very insulting. She acted like, it was personal, but that kind of put me off because it's not personal. It's business. I think she should be able to respect that, even if she doesn't respect what Jack does. Of course she doesn't have any respect for terrorism like this, but I thought she took it a little too personal as the conversation in the truck went along. And after they make sure she didn't find out anything more than the plot to capture Matobo, they decide to have her killed. They tell Jack to do it, and for about 10 minutes while other things are going on in the White House and at the FBI, we're left to wonder, how is Jack going to get himself out of this? Because of course he doesn't want to kill Renee. They get to a construction site and they tell Jack, you go kill her. He takes her off, and it looks like there's not going to be much he can do, but he manages to make it the illusion appear as if she got shot, but he actually just grazed her neck, and she followed through with the act. But just when it looks like it's good, just when it looks like we're going to move on, she's going to be alive, she's going to be cool, the bad guys tell Jack and Tony to bury her. So she's being buried, she's handcuffed. It's not going to be very deep, but she could easily suffocate before they get out of there. And this is the very end of the episode. We get the silent clock, which, great usage of the silent clock, great ending sequence in my opinion. It leaves it all ambiguous. We don't know if she's going to die or not, because the silent clock usually indicates someone just died, but not always. those are my thoughts. See you later.